Yo, good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and today I want to talk to you about the environment that you're in. And let me go ahead and give you the big finale. If you want to change your life, you have to change your environment. If you don't change your environment, then the things you have in your life are going to remain the same. So let me hopefully give you some inspiration here that'll help you to motivate you and inspire you to change your environment. You see, I was watching a video earlier today about wealth and about the black wealth gap, and the commentator who was speaking to the interviewer was talking to this one gentleman, and he expressed how he was born on the wrong side of the tracks in the 1960s, that for all intents and purposes he was born in an environment that should have kept him poor or moderately middle class his entire life, but he was able to change all of that and become one of the top 1% earners in the world, well, in America. And the interviewer made the statement. She said, I understand that people have always told you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and he had an amazing comment that he said that first you got to have boots in order to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And the environment he grew up in, he didn't have boots. Now, he said that in order for him to change his life, he had to begin to change his environment. That he systematically changed his environment in order to change his destiny, change his trajectory in life. You see, many of you have been in the same trajectory, or the where you are today has been planned out for you because you maintained the same environment or a similar environment. When I was young, about 13, 14 years old, I hung around these three guys. And what we did every day was we smoked weed, we drank whatever we can get our hands on, whether it was beer, gin, private stock, Mad Dog, Night Train, whatever it was. This is just telling you how old I am. But we would get our hand, whatever we can get our hands on, we would drink. And then we would smoke weed every day. And I did this for like 7-8 months. This was my crew. These were the guys I hung out with. And then one Friday night, and it was a Friday night, I remember it vividly. One Friday night, we were discussing the fact that the drinking wasn't getting us there anymore. The weed wasn't getting us there anymore. I learned at that time frame in my life that I don't have that much of an addictive nature, and I oftentimes would act more drunk or act more high than I really was just so that I would fit in. But I realized I didn't have much of an addictive nature. But that night, that Friday, we was talking about the fact that we just weren't getting enough. It just wasn't getting us there. So they decided that the next day, tomorrow, we're gonna try cocaine and crack. I woke up that Saturday morning and I said to myself, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing cocaine or crack. That's not gonna happen. And that was the last time I ever hung out with those three guys. I changed my environment that day. That day, instead of getting up, instead of going over to either one of them houses, two of them were brothers, instead of going over to their houses, I did not go. I let the entire day go by. I remember that day, I stayed home the whole day. I stayed in the house the entire day. I did not even go outside at all. I was determined to change my environment, and I made that decision that I was going to change my environment. Then the next day, I stayed in the house until about 8 o'clock that night, and then I just went out to the stoop and just the close environment that I was in, and I kept doing that, and I let enough time go by that I completely changed my associations. Now, fast forward into today, one of those guys is dead. Another one is in a wheelchair from gunshot, and the other one is in jail. So I changed my environment, and it changed the trajectory of my life. You see, I've done that many times before in my life, and I know you've done it before as well. I know somewhere in your life you've done it before. You know, and sometimes that change is not always easy, and sometimes that environment is not always what you want. You see, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in an environment where I was accustomed to being around people who was always trying to excel, to make their lives better, to grow and become a better version of themselves in order to get promoted. Because there was a thing in the military. You see, in the Marine Corps, and I say the military because in the Marine Corps, when I was growing up in it, There was no such thing as a 20-year E5. Like, if you were an E5 and you're around year 12, 13, 14, if you don't get promoted to E6, then the Marine Corps will kick you out. The Marine Corps has no tolerance for people who want to stay stagnant in their current condition. So they will kick you out. The only way you will have a 20-year Marine is if this Marine was an E8, E9, got into enough severe trouble that they bust him down to an E5, and then he's only waiting to be administratively separated or dishonorably discharged. One of those two things is going on if there's an E5 Marine with 20 years. But in the Marine Corps, stagnation is not tolerated. When I got out of the Marine Corps and I went into civilian world, the first thing I couldn't understand is how people got promoted when they didn't excel. How people got promoted when they didn't change their life. How people got promoted when they didn't add to their being. I could not understand that. I couldn't understand you being promoted to manager simply because you were there, because you existed, because you had been at the company the longest. I couldn't understand that. It blew my mind. It was something that didn't make sense to me. But I realized that civilian life is not military life. But I even had to go back and think about how in the Army, and no disrespect to the Army, but I met gentlemen who were 17, 18, 19-year E5s in the Army. During that time frame that I was in, that the Army allowed, I don't know if they still do, but they allowed 17, 18, 19-year E5s. They allowed that stagnation within their ranks. And that did not make sense to me. And even to this day, it doesn't make sense to me. When I look at people in relationships, I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday. He has a sister who is in a failing, unhappy, sexless, emotionless, passionless relationship. The marriage is dead. But he could not understand why she's still there. She's been in this relationship and it's been dead for 5 years, and he can't understand why she's still there. The relationship is becoming even more strenuous because of the control and jealousies of the husband, and he can't understand why she's still there. And I had to explain to him that even though she talks the good game of she's going to leave, she talks the good game of creating separation, until she changes her environment, she more than likely is not going to go anywhere unless an enormous amount of pain is exerted on either his end or her end in order for her to leave. Now, for anybody who says that you should not advocate for divorce, I do not believe that all marriages are made in heaven. Plenty, and most of them are made in the mind of a man. So, I don't think that anybody should stay in a relationship where they're stagnant, where things aren't progressing, where things are moving in a direction that's not magnifying the other person. You see, many people keep getting into similar relationships because you keep maintaining the same environment. That lady can't leave because she's still in that environment. You're out here dating someone and dating the next person and dating the next person, but you're still maintaining the same environment. So this is why you keep attracting, one of the reasons you keep attracting the same type people, because your environment hasn't changed. If you don't date someone that challenges you to become a greater versions of yourself, then you cannot attract other people who are greater versions of what you've previously been dating. You have to change your environment. You have to change the environment around you in order for you to change. If you don't change, then why do you expect any other aspect of your life to change? You have to change your environment if you want something different. I know plenty of people who are in poor relationships. They won't leave the relationship. They can't leave the relationship is how they feel, because their environment is still the same. When a person doesn't want to work towards the betterment of the relationship and is happy with that stagnation, then the relationship will stay stagnant and that person will stay unhappy. Unless a certain amount of pain is exerted in one form or fashion by either party, no one's leaving. Why? Because the environment's still the same. Change the environment, you can change the relationship. Change your own personal environment, and you can change every aspect of your life. You see, if you want to learn how to dance, you have to go into an environment where people dance. If you want to, and in my day, you want to get smarter, you had to go into the library, because that's where the books were. That's where the books were. So that's why you had to go to the library. There were no books on the playground. There were no books on the street. There were no books on the basketball court. Now, if you wanted to become better at playing basketball, then you have to be on the basketball court. You can't be in the library if you want to get better at sports. You have to be out where the sports is being played. If you want to get better at cooking, you have to be in the kitchen. So you have to be in the environment where you can get better. Otherwise, your life will stay stagnant and you won't ever get better. You won't learn a new trade. You won't learn a new talent. You won't be able to explore your gift if you're not in the environment where your gift can be explored. So you must look for a different environment to expand. If you want to become a poet, you have to be in the environment of poets. If you want to be a dancer, go and be with dancers. If you want to be a business person, you have to be around business people. You know, I was wondering to myself a few years ago, with all this information, you see, one thing that has happened in the world today is that information is easy to get. It's at the tip of your fingers. The beauty of the internet is also the most damaging thing of the internet. The internet provides information for you at first hand. If you really want to learn how to dance, you can watch enough YouTube videos. If you want to learn how to sew, you can watch YouTube videos. If you want to learn about ancient cultures, you can download and read books. You don't have to go to the library. You don't have to go anywhere. But people still stay stagnant. You can learn to be a better leader simply by watching videos. You can watch my leadership videos, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn. You can watch so many other people, Les Brown. You can watch all their videos on how to become a better leader. John Maxwell, how to become a better leader. You can watch videos. You can read books that the internet provides. You can download them, most books for free. But why is it that people still stay stagnant? But yet, there's a group that doesn't. What group is that? That's the group that still goes to Tony Robbins' immersion programs. The one that goes to Les Brown's immersion programs. The one that go to John Maxwell immersion and coaching programs. The people still go to these programs. Why? Because you still have to change your environment. You see, you can be reading a John Maxwell book, but if you're sitting in the same environment reading that book, well, you just gain some knowledge, but you can't apply it because you're still in the same environment. If you listen to Tony Robbins CDs all day, all night, right now he's doing a financial program. If you listen to his financial program on his CDs or you read his book, but you don't go and change your environment to be in the midst of people who are moving and shaking in finances, to get the financial planners to start involving yourself into the different type of programs that he speaks about, then guess what? Nothing will change for you. You will be sitting there, and then 5-6 years later, when everything he's talking about happens in his book, you'll still be the same and nothing will change, and it won't make any difference. Then what you'll be doing is waiting for the next person to write a book, and then you'll follow that. You know, many people were following Steve Harvey's book on Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man, I believe is what it's called. But then they never changed their environment, so they still were the same people. You have to change your environment. Many people will look at my videos and say, well, I would never have to come to a conference. I don't have to hire him as a personal coach or a business coach. I don't have to hire him as a spiritual coach. I don't have to go to any programs that he puts together or buy any CDs or books because I have it for free right now. Yes, information is free. But unless you immerse yourself in a new environment, guess what? Nothing changed. You don't change. Unless you have new people coming into your life and challenging you, then nothing changed and you won't change. If you want to have change in your life, then you actually have to be in an environment or have people around you, have somebody coaching you, have something that is in your life that is different, that is challenging you, that you can't run from, you can't escape from, that you've invested your time, that you invested your talent, you invested your money into this thing in order for you to become a better person, in order for to challenge you to change your environment. You see, I own more than one business, but by actually opening the door, signing the lease, operating the machinery, serving the customers, dealing with the marketing, training employees, dealing with the taxes, dealing with federal filings and state filings, dealing with all the aspects of being an entrepreneur, literally changes you into being one, and it changed me into being one. And the bigger the business becomes, the more it changes me, because my environment consistently changes. If you want change in your life, you have to immerse yourself into a situation that forces you to change. If you don't, life will always be the same for you. It will never change. So I implore you, I beg you, I ask you, I am pushing you, I am demanding of you, I am ordering you to change your environment. Change it as much as you possibly can. Change it as quickly as you can. You say you can't afford it, figure out a way to afford it. You say that you can't get the right kind of food, you can't pay for the foods so that you can eat healthier. Well, eat less. That's actually going to help you out, and then you'll be able to be healthier. You say you can't afford to go to the gym. Well, there's tons of exercise right outside your door, right in your living room. Change your environment. Change the way your house is set up so that it's set up for a healthy person. Change the way it's set up so that it's set up for an enterprising person. Change the way it's set up so it's set up for a romantic person, for whatever it is. If your relationship is dead, then change the environment of your household. Change the people in the household. Change it. Do something. Change something, because the only constant in the world is change. That's it. Change will always be. I don't believe that other things are constant, but change is constant. Everything changes. We say death is a constant, but no, death is just a change. It's going from one existence to the next existence, one form of energy to the next form of energy. Change is a constant in the universe. So if you want to have better, and you want to be the person that creates the change in your life instead of being the person that is affected by somebody else's decisions, then make the decision today to change your life, to change your environment. Because the day you start making that decision and putting action behind it is the day that you start changing. It's the day that you sit up in your bed on a Saturday morning after talking about doing cocaine the night before, and you say no, that this will not be my life. This will not be the trajectory of my life. I will not end up dead. I will not end up in jail. I will not end up in a wheelchair. That I will have a difference in my life. I will be the causal factor. I decide. This is my life, and I decide what's going to be in my life. Are you ready to be that person? If you are, then make the change. Free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.